We're going to break down the biggest throws in the world in April of 2026, break down the new national high school leaders in the discus and the shot put, and of course, we are going to do a full breakdown of the Throwtown World Invitational in Ramona, Oklahoma. All this and more on this week's Throw Show. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Throw Show. I am, of course, your host, Jason, joined, as always, by the People's Champ, the head throws coach of Throws University and Garage Strength for Youth Development. We have Mr. Coach Sam Weeks.
What's up, J-Dog?
Sam, we're in for a long haul episode today, most episodes, but we have so many throws to cover. We want to get right into it, but before we start, I just want to send a special thank you to everyone that participated in this year's Throwtown World Invitational. I had the pleasure to come back this year, get some great footage of the top athletes. We saw throws that were over national records, one from someone very special to you and I, which we'll be covering later in this episode, as well as multiple world leaders, throws that we didn't think were even possible by some throwers, and getting ever so close to the world record on so many different occasions. Guys, if you have not had the opportunity to watch this year's Throwtown World Invitational, all of them are for free, being able to watch on our YouTube channel, on Throws University's YouTube. You can watch every single event. Unfortunately, we were not able to cover the javelin and hammer throw, which were supposed to occur on Friday due to severe weather storms, but we do have all the discus competitions, the shot put competitions for men and women. So if you haven't already, after you're done watching this recap on the Throw Show, I highly recommend you check out those competitions. Sam, before we dive into today's videos, you had a chance to watch from home. What did you think of the competitions this past weekend, and what can people expect when they rewatch those competitions?
Yeah, no, I thought it was great. I felt like the X-Force creative and everyone behind that did a really good job of just capturing, obviously, the competition, but, some of the in-betweens, some of the raw emotions of, hitting a big mark and just kind of, just the environment of what these competitions embody. And I felt like it was a really cool experience. Obviously, the last 2 years I've been there, so I got to see it in person. This year I did not end up going, so, I was able to, still be there without being there, through the live stream. So I think the experience was super dope. This is a new experience for me watching from home, but I felt like I was there, watching.
Yeah, and special shout out to the X-Force team that brought you this broadcast. Andrew Saylor and his team did a phenomenal job this year. We also have, some updates to the broadcast I think were better than last year. We actually had on-site athlete interviews after their competitions. So those are nice little treats to give you some insight into what they were thinking about during those competitions when, some throwers had the best meets of their entire lives. And we got to see some really, really far throws. Also, shout out to the host and director of this competition, Caleb Seal. He's the director there at Throwtown in Ramona. And these competitions would not be possible without his expertise and running the meet, making sure it runs smoothly. Because there were a lot of bumps in the road, unfortunately, due to the weather this past weekend, which, by the nature of being an outdoor sport, we can only control so much of. And also shout out to Don Milliken, because he's the one who's financed Throwtown, and we would not be having the treat of world records almost every year without Don Milliken and his support. So thank you to everyone who helped out this weekend. We couldn't have done it without you. So let's dive right into our first throw. And ironically enough, we're going to cover some throws that happened outside of Ramona first, mainly because there were some gigantic tosses in the world of throwing, especially in the United States this year. And no one showed that more than Cameron Rogers setting a new personal best to become the number 2 thrower all time behind Anita Vladarchuk in the women's hammer. She opened up at the Texas Relays going 81 meters 13. For perspective, she is the second woman to ever cross the 81 meter barrier on this throw. Sam, you're the hammer expert here at Throws University. What do you see on this throw, and what do you think of this massive opener for Cameron Rogers?
I see the future GOAT having the best season opener, potentially ever. Yeah, no, I remember seeing, I think we were at training and I saw this on Instagram and I was just like, my jaw dropped. Like, Cameron is literally just like different. Like, she is starting her season with a mark that she ended her last season with.
Yeah.
That is
wow.
crazy.
Not only that, like 60 centimeters further.
Yeah, that is crazy. And it's just like, it's exciting to see because it makes me think, like, where's she going to be towards the back end of the season when she's, you know, in a better groove and, you know, she's, you know, in better shape to, you know, throw further. So it's like, we might see something even bigger than, you know, a toss like this.
I mean, I think you're right about that because, you know, if you look at Anita's career, and she's currently probably the number one, you know, she's definitely the number one hammer thrower all time because she's a 3-time Olympic champion as well as being the world record holder. Mm-hmm. But if you look at the comparative distances that Cameron has thrown relative to Anita based off of age, Cameron's way farther ahead than Anita was at her age. And she's already an Olympic champion and 2-time world champion. So I think you're right. I think we are looking at the future GOAT in Cameron Rogers. If you are a hammer thrower and you're not watching Cameron Rogers to improve your technique,
you're not a hammer thrower.
What are you doing? It's right there in front of you. Like the tools are right there. And dude, I think even you can attest incredible technique on her.
Incredible technique. It's literally, I don't know if I could say perfect, but like very, very close. Like,
yeah,
like a really good technical model. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, this is an amazing throw. Amazing opener for Cameron. And will we see the world record go down later this year? Time will tell.
Time will tell.
And we're actually going to quick sneak into Ramona real quick because this was a massive throw in the women's hammer. Rachel Richardson actually got second place here to Cameron Rogers. And one thing to know about Cameron Rogers is she actually threw 79 meters in this meet, which is the third best meet for her all time. You know, she was a 78 meter thrower like not too long ago before she hit 80 meters at Worlds. Mm-hmm. So she went 79 meters here to take the victory. But we need to highlight Rachel Richardson because she went massive here last year, setting a 4-meter personal best on 78.80, which was 5th all time at the time. Now she came back to Ramona, throw 78.30. So this is her number 2 throw all time again in Ramona. And one thing to note, you're going to notice there's a lot of water in the circle and in the field there, Ramona. So there were massive thunderstorms. I was there. There was like a 5 to 6 hour delay of all competitions, which is why we weren't able to broadcast because it was just the conditions were too wet that we couldn't make sure that the gear was going to be safe for broadcasting purposes. But, you know, Caleb stuck to his guns. He held on the competition. The throwers were willing to throw. And even though it was way, way later in the day, Rachel came out with another bomb, 78.30 to get second place here. What do you see on Rachel's throw, and what do you think of just her being able to respond given the harsh conditions throughout the day?
Yeah, I know. Like, it's definitely tough, you know, having to wait, you know, especially when you are, like, in your mind, you know you're throwing, let's say, hypothetically, at 2 o'clock.
Yeah.
Right? It's tough to be delayed, you know, roughly 5 hours and compete at 7, especially, you know, I'm assuming it was humid probably, like, you know, it's warm over there. It just rained. It was thunder. Like, I'm sure the conditions weren't all that great.
There's just puddles everywhere, so you're trying to make sure your shoes don't get dirty.
You can see her reflection.
Yeah.
But just to double down and have your second farthest mark at the same location that you had your farthest mark with the defending world champion and Olympic champion in the same competition, I think that's a huge testament to Rachel as an athlete and Rachel as a competitor. You know, I'm a big fan of Rachel. I was able to film her, you know, PR last year, and, you know, I'm a big fan. I feel like, you know, with her, it's always, you know, relay attack 3 and 4, which, you know, she obviously did a really good job of, and it's like, you know, you really can't ask for more. I think this is a phenomenal competition, you know, especially with all of the women who were in this field, especially with all the conditions that they had to deal with.
Yeah, absolutely. This is what it takes to be a competitive athlete at this level. You can't let conditions, you know, take you over. That's what happened in the men's discus at Worlds last year. You have to overcome that, and you have to do what you can and execute to the best of your ability, and Rachel did just that.
Absolutely.
So for any thrower, regardless if you throw hammer or not, that's a huge takeaway you can have as a competitor.
Control the controllables.
Now we're going to go to the college ranks, and this one's really, really cool as we see Evelyn Bliss out of Bucknell throw 61 meters 34 to take the NCAA lead. Bucknell is a university that's just not historically known for having incredible throwers, but Coach Ryan Protzman, who you and I both know well, is a phenomenal coach. Has started at the high school level in Pennsylvania, built his way up to be the coach at Bucknell, and now he's coaching one of the best javelin throwers, currently in America, in the United States. And Bliss is not stopping because, she won nationals last year, correct? She won USA nationals last year, competing for Bucknell, improves her personal best on her opener right here. You, as the javelin expert here at Throws University, what are you seeing on this throw, and what do you think this means for Evelyn's career moving forward in NCAA and maybe even post-collegiate?
I think both throws said it best. Bliss don't miss. I think the biggest thing with Evelyn is she's super smooth.
Yeah.
She's very long. She has really good rhythm. I was able to watch another video. It was from like the back angle, and it was the same thing. It's like she's very smooth. She's very long. Obviously, she's very powerful. But I feel like just with her experience, the last couple seasons, obviously competing at Worlds and then, winning a national title last year, I just feel like she's just on just like the run of her life. And I feel like this is just the beginning.
Right.
I feel like each year for the past couple years, she's slowly been getting better and better. And now, she's getting to the point where, she can easily say, like, I'm the top dog in women's javelin. And I feel like that's not going to slow down anytime soon, right? She's had several performances at, major competitions where she's, coming out as one of the best. And I feel like, that's just going to continue as, she progresses.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if she can, secure a win at nationals this year in the NCAA, that'll be huge for the Bucknell program. That'll be huge for Ryan Protzman and his coaching career, and obviously huge for Evelyn. And I don't recall, is she a junior or senior right now?
I'll be honest.
Yeah, we'll get back to you on that. But she's already hitting professional level marks. So I would like to see Evelyn keep pushing this and see where she can go from here. And you mentioned Bo throws earlier, and one cool thing that Bo does here is he highlights every division, and he understands, the importance of highlighting athletes that maybe don't get as much attention as probably they should, especially at the Division III level. And we have Cooper Folkstad at Division III, Concordia, going 19 meters 26. And for those of you that understand Division III athletics, Division III, there's no scholarships. You literally are competing for the love of the game. Mm-hmm. You and I both competed at D3, so we know that quite well. And for an athlete in the shot put to go 19 meters is huge. It's very, very rare in Division III. And to see him take the D3 lead, I think what's cool about it is a lot more people are taking notice of Division III. You have athletes like Roger Steen, former athletes like Sean Donnelly. Now we see Joseph White, who came from Carthage and then competed at Wisconsin and is now going post-collegiate, training with the team at Wisconsin. All D3 athletes that were highly successful at the highest level possible from Division III. And to the point where even Roger Steen asked me, like, as he was warming up, like we were getting ready for the men's shot put over the weekend, Joseph White was off the side watching, and he's asked, like, Jason, what's the stance on Joseph White? Is he still D3? Because I was D3 all my whole collegiate career. Like, I never went D1 like these Sean Donnelly and Joseph White. and we basically came to the conclusion that because Joseph White did get his initial degree, his bachelor's at Carthage, he's D3 through and through. So it's really cool to see an athlete like this. I really like his movement. He's a big guy, very strong, powerful. I see a guy like this, and I'm like, this is a guy who could definitely go 20 meters plus in his career. What do you see on his throw, and what can some high school athletes take away from watching a guy like this?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just the rhythm of his throw. Like, he's control at back. It looks like, he's coiled when he gets down to double support and just finds that lift and really reaches out into the finish. And I feel like that's definitely something that, any high school thrower who wants to, get better can definitely take away. It's like, you're building your technique, you're building your technical model throughout the week, and then you're trusting in that preparation when it is time to compete and just really kind of letting loose. And I feel like with Cooper here, like, that's definitely the case. Like, his movement is very smooth, and that's not something that just happens.
Yeah.
It's something that you build. And, obviously 1926 is a massive toss no matter what division you're at.
Yeah.
But being this, being Division 3, I feel like this is like huge. And obviously, like, he moves really, really well. He's definitely, a big athlete. But I feel like just, with his preparation, what he's currently doing, it's clearly working, and I feel like it's just going to continue to build.
Yeah, so what's going to be interesting for me is if he can get close to 20, if he can hit 20 meters, he would be the first D3 athlete actively competing to throw 20 meters in the shot, and he would break the NCAA record, which is something that, Roger Steen didn't even do in his time, Wisconsin Eau Claire. Joseph White didn't do. So they, I think Roger didn't even throw 19 meters in college. I think he was just short. So it's going to be cool to see what he can do in his collegiate career, and maybe we'll be seeing a new D3 record holder at the end of the season. Okay, and this is a big throw that may have went a little under the radar for you and I at first, but this is something that needs to be talked about because we are looking at the next generation of elite Jamaican discus throwers. As we see Joseph Salmon out of, I believe, Kingston College or Jamaica College. I forget the exact school they competes at, but he competed at the Boys and Girls Champs, which is a massive meet in Jamaica. They do a lot to highlight high school athletes there. And he goes over 67 meters here with the 175 in high school. And we've talked about Jamaican throwers before. We're going to see some Jamaican throwers in this video. Huge throws and great technique from Jamaican discus throwers. So let's take a look at Joseph Salmon's throw here. Jamaica College.
For juniors, 765 up, out, and going. And there's going to be that line there is the former record, the 66.88. I don't think they would have adjusted the 67.35. And so that's now 67.55.
Okay, 67.55. Let's watch that throw again. And we'll have Sam, who is also an elite discus thrower, break down his technique and show us what he's doing right and what you can take home in your throwing today.
The big man.
So it's not the best angle for technique. I get that, Sam, but what do you see here on the little bit?
So looking at like that first scene right here, just look at the length of his wind. Dude, like, he is so long. I like to call that the T position.
Yeah.
He is super long in his T position, and his arms do not deviate from that length, right? So he is catching in a super deep position, which is allowing him to accelerate. The disc is on a very long path, which, if you're if you're creating a lot of rotational energy and you're transferring all of that, you're going to get a big result. And that's exactly what we saw here with, this new PR, this new record for Joseph. Just thinking about it, like, obviously, the commentator said it, like, he's big. I feel like, with this being a 175, this is, 67 meters. I feel like, when he transitions into the 2K, like, he's going to be like a 62, 63 meter thrower right off the bat. Yeah. So, like, he is a phenomenal athlete, and I feel like it's one of those things where it's like Jamaican throwers, more so in the discus, just have this like lineage of just greatness, and I feel like he is just adding, his name to that list of just great athletes who've come out of Jamaica, and I feel like he's going to be one of the athletes to continue to push this sport, as he progresses into the, 2K and, the men's division.
Yeah, and one other thing I want to add is like, so I'm not really sure who his coach is. I think you're more aware than I am. But like the fact that he's from Jamaica College, most elite discus throwers we tend to see come from the lineage of like Calabar High School and Julian Robinson. Mm-hmm. So to see another elite discus thrower come from a different coach and a different program is really great to see, because it shows that the depth across Jamaica is building. Mm-hmm. That it's not just like one coach and one program is producing all this talent. It's across the whole country. So this is an amazing throw. I talked to Chad Wright, who's also a Jamaican discus thrower, who we'll be seeing later in this video, over the weekend, and asking about Joseph. And he's just saying, like, dude, Joseph's the next guy. Like, he's going to be the guy that you're going to see on the podium eventually as a senior athlete. Mm-hmm. And what's important to also recognize, this is the U20 world lead. And I believe he's still in high school, so I think he has another year as a U20. So the fact he's already throwing 67 meters at this stage in his career has me think he could throw over 70 with the 175, especially when it's only April.
Yeah.
I actually think he did this in March. So congrats. And we didn't even mention this. He did in stadium.
Yeah.
He did that in stadium, 67. Like, so in the right conditions, we are talking about a 70-plus meter thrower, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, Joseph. It's exciting to see what you're going to do as a senior athlete and in the future career. And if you decide to come to the NCAA and compete in the college ranks, it'll be awesome to watch you throw. Great technique, and you have a great career ahead of you. Okay, so we're going to stay within the high school ranks because we have a new high school leader. This is the number 5 throw all time for U.S. boys high school discus. This is 225 feet 6 inches from Simon Rosselli. We talked about Simon last year. Simon, as a junior, threw over 218 feet. He went to the Arcadia Invitational over the weekend to set a new personal best, 225.6. We've talked before about how Simon just has incredible technique. He's a great technician, well beyond his years for most American throwers. One thing I kind of want to highlight is, have you ever seen a discus circle dug into the ground?
No, I've actually never seen that before.
And I'm like curious as to why they did that, because the circle, like I get the idea of trying to level things out, but I'm like looking at the sector and the circle is just lower than the sector. So I don't know why Arcadia decided to do that. And it has me wondering if he gave up like some distance by doing that. You would know better than me. Mm-hmm. But let's first start off by talking about his technique and get in to see if there's actually more distance to be had here. What do you think of Simon's technique here?
I like it. I like the rhythm. I like, how smooth he is. Just like I was saying with Joseph, like Simon does a really good job of just creating length and maintaining that throughout his spin, right? And I think that's what his length is a byproduct of, this 225 toss, right? Athletes who are nice and long create the most rotational energy, and if you can maintain certain positions throughout the spin, you're gonna transfer all of that into the finish. And clearly this is a good example of that. Now, does he lose anything from the circle being in the ground? Maybe, but I don't know. It's very peculiar. I'm not sure. I would assume maybe like a couple inches, but at the end of the day, like
it's a long throw event. So
this dude is so good. Like I don't think it really that.
I think I would be more upset if this was a shot put comp. I think you'd probably lose some distance if this is a shot put comp. But with discus, it's hard to say. And maybe the surveyor was like, maybe there's something I don't know about, like the end of the pit, and they had to dig it down for like maybe after like 150 feet, there's a drop off.
Yeah,
I don't know, because this event actually, I'm not sure if you're aware, this is actually where Nicholas Arrhenius broke the national high school record when he was in high school in like 2002. I think he threw like 234. Now it was very windy that day. And then Mason Finley, of course, went on to break it a few years later at 236. So he's also, about 11 feet away from the high school national record. With the toss like this, he has probably about 6 more weeks to officially try to get this record. Now, I think if he competes at the national championship, like a Nike, I think that counts towards high school leaders and high school records. I believe so. But do you think it's possible for him to break that national record this year?
I think it's very possible.
Yeah.
I think there are a few of the like top boys high school throwers who are all pushing each other.
Yeah.
I feel like each week I see a video of, one is like over the other, and then that one responds, and then a third one comes in. And I feel like they're all pushing each other, and I feel like because they're doing that, we'll probably see a new record, if not, or very close to a new record.
Absolutely. And we have another discus thrower here who I was actually surprised. I didn't know he had this in him. But well done, CJ Williams. We talked about him in the indoor season as the top shot putter in the U.S. this year. 221 3 inches. So just a few feet behind Simon Rosselli. He added, I think, like 18 feet to his PR on this throw.
Yeah, it was something like that. So
now he's U.S. number 8 all time. And between him, Simon Rosselli, and the thrower we're going to be talking about following, CJ here, he might be going down as one of the best double threats in high school history as a discus and shot putter. 221 here. I think it's like one of those things you see he's in an open area, perfect place to throw discus far. He has really good technique in the shot put, showing that here in the discus. Very, very smooth. And I think that's what I really appreciate about CJ's movement is everything he does just looks so fluid.
Absolutely.
What are you seeing on his throw here?
Yeah, so this mark was before Simon hit his
Okay,
225.
so it was the leader.
So this was the leader at one point, and then Simon threw his toss. And like I was saying, I feel like these guys are just attacking tosses.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, I'm number one. And then the other guy has to respond, and it's just like this back and forth. And it's very fun to watch as a spectator. Obviously, CJ is a really good technician. You know, we've seen him, you know, do this all indoors with his shot technique. You know, obviously throwing, I think he threw 19 with the 16.
Yep.
Obviously, he went to go big with 72 in the shot. He actually threw 55 with the 2K. I believe he went to Ramona.
Yeah, I saw that as well.
He threw 55 with the 2K, so obviously that's a big mark. This one, dude, like this toss looked effortless, in my opinion. Like, you know, same thing I was talking about Simon, just nice and long, really good with his feet. Dude, like his lower body leads the finish all the way through, and he just maintains positions with the upper body and transfers all of that energy into the finish. Dude, it's literally going to be a race to, like, who's going to be number one, and I feel like these guys are just going to keep pushing each other.
Yeah, and one thing I want to add here on these discus throws for those watching, like high schoolers at home trying to figure out how you add distance to your discus throws, watch how smooth they are, but watch how elastic they are. You can't be tight in the discus.
No.
You need to have, like, obviously separation between your torso and your hips, right? But if you just look at, like, the elasticity across his upper body and his chest and his arms, it's like that's how you get a bigger pull on the discus. And then that's how you can stay down longer, have a long finish. And that's why I think one of the things I'll even notice is, like, dude, we're in an era where just, like, no high school kid jumps anymore. If you're, like, top of the class, you're not jumping at the finish. All these guys have great finishes.
Yeah.
CJ, like you said, it's a race, man. I can't call it who's gonna throw what this season, and we might have multiple people in the 230s by the end of the season, which is insane, which has never happened in high school before.
Yeah.
And I want to stay on CJ here because he also set a new personal best in the shot put, throwing over 72 feet here. He threw 71 indoors to be the indoor national leader. What are you seeing on the 72-footer here, and how much more distance do you think he has to his shot put? And now they thrown 221 in the discus. Is he more of a discus thrower or a shot putter now?
That's a good question. He's a dual threat regardless.
Yeah.
Regardless of how you look at it, he's a dual threat. I think this was the same day as his discus toss. So clearly he was just on fire that day. Obviously, a lot of the same things. He has length, more so with the lower body as he's getting wide around. What I really like is how you can see what Mac Wilkins would call the 9 o'clock drop with his left leg out of the back, which just allows him to get into that aggressive sprint phase as that right passes the left. And, he catches in a really deep position, which allows him to just cork into the finish. And it's just like, it's just a work of art, man. It's really good technique. And, obviously the performance is going to, show from that. But, dude, he's legit.
Yeah. If you're a thrower and you're looking to watch other high schoolers to emulate, CJ's a great model. Great movement. Well done, CJ. I think you have more to give. I think I don't want to put a number out there because you are young, so I don't want to psych yourself out, but I think you have a lot more in the tank. I think you're way farther than a 72-foot shot putter in my book. Well done, CJ.
Absolutely.
Okay, and we're going to keep with the discus throwing because this just happened. I think I saw this post last night. And what's important to note here is this is Chris Marcel. He's actually the national champion indoors for the shot put. He beat CJ by an inch. We talked about that on one of our throw shows. Opens up here in the discus at 210, 10 inches, which is not a PR. His PR is actually 220 from last year as a junior in high school. He's a senior now. And to think that his opener is 210, like, give him a few more meets, a few more reps, he's going to be in the 220 range really quick.
Absolutely.
But still a 210 throw is a phenomenal effort, especially as an opener. So I feel like it's still worth highlighting. What do you see on Chris's throw here, and what do you think he can maybe tighten up to get those extra few feet?
Yeah, no, dude, Chris is another one of those guys that I think is just going to start battling. Obviously, this is a season opener. It's not as far as the other two, but it's not that far off, like,
No.
Realistically.
Any high school throwing over 200 feet is incredible.
Yes, 100%. Any discus throw over 200 is a phenomenal feat.
Yeah.
With Chris here, I think his movement is smooth. Obviously, this is his season opener, so he might not have had too many tosses at a higher intensity. Like, I'm sure like they chase tosses in practice, but to do it in competition is a little bit different. So I feel like once he gets a few more competitions under his belt, that's when we're really going to start seeing him in better shape. Technique wise, I agree with what I've been saying with the other two. Like, he's nice and long, he's setting up positions. I think if anything, maybe if he has like a little more of a high point, it doesn't have to be anything crazy, but I feel like if that disc is slightly above the shoulder just a little bit more, that might just create a little more rotational energy, create a little more stretch for him to, utilize into the finish. But outside of that, dude, like 210 is still phenomenal, and it's a season opener, so he has a lot of room to grow, a lot of room to just figure things out, so he can contend for being the best when it's that time of year.
Yeah, man, like I said, I think we could be looking at multiple guys in the 230s this year, which will be the first time in the history of high school discus that we get to see one singular class of athlete with that level of depth of talent. So this is incredible. It almost reminds me of 2011 when there was like 9 or 10 70-foot shot putters that year. That was the year that Nick Vina graduated, Ryan Krauser graduated. So I think we're going to see something like that this year in the boys discus. And this one's very special. Sam, this is your athlete, Garage Strength's own Alivia Noecker, setting a new personal best and realistically hitting marks that are competitive at the Power 4 Division I level. Almost 15 meters here, 49 feet even. This is the sophomore class record in Pennsylvania, and actually getting very close to the overall national sophomore class record. She's only a few feet away from the overall PA state record. Alivia, her progress is a story for the books in terms of garage strength athletes in high school. You've taken her from initially hitting 40 feet back in June at high school nationals at New Balance in Philadelphia to, it hasn't even been a full calendar year yet. We're about 9 months since then,
roughly.
And she's added 9 feet to her personal best. Sam, tell me about her technique and tell me what you guys did to add 9 feet to her throw in such little time.
Yeah, I think Alivia is a phenomenal athlete. Yeah. I think she's just one of those athletes who just clearly understands, what it takes to be great.
Right.
It's one of those things where, like, obviously our culture at Garage Strength and Throws You is already established, but I feel like, to really kind of reap the benefits, like, you have to be different.
Yeah.
And I think Alivia is amongst that class of athletes that are just truly different.
Yeah.
Now, obviously, she has great guidance between myself, Dane, Taman, Legend, all the other coaches, and her coaches at school. But, at the end of the day, it's you got to show up, when it's your time, when you're in the circle. And Alivia has been doing a really good job of that, this last, 9 months or so. The biggest difference, obviously, me and you got to watch her compete at freshman nationals where she won at 40 feet. But I think the biggest thing between then to now was we really, focused on the technique. We tried to create better movement patterns, from the back to the front. And, we got her stronger in the weight room.
Which I really want to highlight there. We don't have this video in here, and I think I want to add some of these videos of what you're talking about regarding the strength in next throw show, because some of the athletes that you have right now that are so young lifting the weights that they are, I'm telling you this right now, she's a sophomore in high school, legit. How much did she squat, Sam?
She squatted 150, which would be 330 pounds.
So for those in the comments, can you tell me how many sophomore high school girls you know that are squatting over, let alone 250 pounds? And now we're talking 330 pounds.
330. She cleaned over 200. I think her best was like 207.
Wow. That must be a really good program to be able to lift those kind of weights and throw these kind of distances. Sam, can you tell me more?
Yeah, I mean, obviously with our technical model, like we're very big into the strength training, right? We want to utilize our strength training to, be a tool to help us become better throwers. And, Alivia is a perfect example of that. We have more on-site athletes who are a perfect example of that. We actually have online athletes who I like to, throw on Throws You, who are a perfect representation of that. And all of, these programs are available on throwsuniversity.com. If you are an athlete who is struggling, or if you are an athlete who wants to find that next gear, for performances, you can get this style of training, working with me specifically through our online programming on throwsuniversity.com. If you want to get better, this is the place. We have the tools, we have the resources, we have the performances that prove that. All you gotta do is just head over to Throws You and just pick up a program.
In the words of Ernie Hudson from Ghostbusters, we have the tools and we have the talent.
Yes.
And we got both. And the reality is, you don't even have to think that you have the talent. You just have to start working, and progress will happen.
Absolutely. Like, obviously, I do think Alivia is different, but
yeah.
Dude, like if I pulled up a video of her technique, from last year, you'd be like, this is someone who's clearly new to the sport. And if you look at this, like she's a sophomore who just threw 49 feet. Yeah. You would think like she's been doing this forever.
Yeah.
She really hasn't.
I have one more question for you. Given that statement, if you were to tell yourself, Sam Weeks from April of 2025, your April of 2026, Sam, if you were to tell Sam from April 2025 that you'd be having Alivia throw almost 50 feet right now, what would he say?
If I was myself from last year, I would have been like, you're drunk. I would have been like, I think she can do it, but it's going to be very tough. And it's one of those things where it's like...
She put in the work.
Like, our goal was to throw 50 feet.
Yeah.
And at that point, like, we were around like 40, 42. And I was like, 50 is a big transition.
Yeah.
I didn't want to put any limits, but it's like, all right, let's go to 45. We hit 45. All right, let's go to 47. We hit 47. She did it at States to win her first indoor state title. All right, now we're at 47. Let's push for 48. I feel like 48 is a good number. Brushed past 48 through 49. So it's like, now we're getting closer to 50. And that's something that we talked about in the summer. Like, yo, let's get to 50. And right now, like, this was coming off of testing.
Yeah.
Like, this was coming off of testing week.
A heavy week.
A heavy strength week.
Yeah.
So now as we start to transition into our concentric power phase, it's up. Like, she is second to Addie Stuyvesant, who also works, at Garage Strength, for the sophomore record. And I feel like it's there. She has the sophomore class record for the state of PA. And I feel like, as we start progressing, she's really going to start challenging the state record and then that national sophomore record.
Awesome. Well done, Coach Sam Weeks. And again, if you would like to train with Coach Sam Weeks, click the link down in the description at throwsuniversity.com for our throws training programs. And if you're a coach who'd want to improve your own skill set as a coach, we have multiple books and courses dedicated entirely to teaching you how to cue correctly, as well as developing strength programs and long-term programming for your athletes. So for athletes, coaches, Throws University's got it all. Click the links down in the description, and we hope you can throw farther. Okay, Sam, we are finally getting to the event, Ramona, Oklahoma, Throwtown World Invitational, and we are going to start off, and one thing I want to say that makes this event much different from last year and previous years at Throwtown is we had deep talent across multiple events. We already discussed the women's hammer, which are seeing some of the farthest throws in the history of that event, And we also saw some deep throws in the shot put. And we're starting off here with Chase Jackson. She had her outdoor opener here, 20 meters 13. That's a great opener for Chase, over 20 meters. You know, it wasn't too long ago where 20 meters was a very, very rare sight for an American shot putter in the women. And even just in general. And the fact that Chase, even on maybe potentially an off day, is still throwing over 20 meters, that's incredible. You can actually watch the full stream of her competition on our Throws University YouTube channel in the live section, looking up the Throwtown World Invitational. Just look up the Elite Shot Put competition. We had both the men and women's stream going on in the same video, so you can, you know, basically dual threat which you want to watch in between. You have the men and women's both on that same feed. But 20-meter throw here from Chase for the victory. What do you see here on Chase's throw once we get back to actually being able to see it? She had a bit of an edit in this video. But what do you think of 20 meters for Chase here?
Yeah, no, 20 meters is a great opener, and I feel like Chase to 20 meters is what Ryan to 22 was. Like, I feel like, obviously we know Ryan has the most 22-meter tosses in history, and I feel
23.
like... and 23, yes. But, like, his 22 is, like, over, like, 200 tosses. It's crazy.
It's insane.
And I feel like Chase is becoming that athlete on the women's side when it comes to 20-meter tosses. You know, I feel like, you know, almost every week that we talk about Chase, it's, you know, discussing how she went over 20 meters. And, you know, obviously that's very phenomenal. And I feel like the more tosses that you have over 20, like, it, you know, we always have this conversation, who's going to throw 21 first? And I feel like because she has so many over 20, we know that that's most likely her baseline, and, you know, that's going to allow her to keep pushing and get closer to 21. I know every time we decide, like, who are we picking, you know, I always go with Chase. It's clearly for a reason. You know, Chase, I personally like her technique. I know Dane has brought it up. Olivia's technique is very reminiscent of what Chase does, so obviously I'm very fond of what Chase does, you know, especially with coaching Alivia. But, you know, Chase is phenomenal with what she does. Her technique is great, and, you know, she gets another toss over 20.
Yeah, great work, Chase. Phenomenal throw. And like she even said, she doesn't think she's in competition form yet. She will be competing in 1 month from now, so she has 4 weeks to really dial in that technique, and maybe we'll see a monster from her come May 16th. And one personal highlight of mine, I promised her that we would cover her in the throw show, but this is my old teammate from Kansas State. This is formerly Danny Winters, now Danny Hartung. She was an NCAA champion at Kansas State, beating Raven Saunders, ironically enough, in 2016. She has been competing as a post-collegiate. She's a new mom. And she's basically just wanted to start throwing again because she just really liked throwing. And I really respect that. And over the weekend, she walked into it just thinking it's going to be another fun meet. And she knew she was going to see me and our other old teammate, the former coach at West Point, Ryan Hirschberger. So we got a nice little picture together. And she just thought, oh, this would be a fun meet where I could see old friends. She did not expect that she would have her farthest throw in 10 years, her first 17-meter throw. Not only that, she got third place in this competition and actually made some money. So I wanted to do a shout out for Danny here, just because she's literally just throwing for the love of the game. And with a mark like this, she's actually creeping up to qualifying for her first national championship since college. And I figure we just do a little technical review here, but 17 meters is still nothing to sneeze at. That's a great
legit mark.
That's a legit mark. And the fact that she's doing it, you know, postpartum and basically, like, again, her farthest mark in 10 years, just a little bit kind of seeing, what do you see on Danny's throw that maybe people can take away here?
I've never seen her throw before this point, but I like just, you know, how smooth it is. You know, she has a good wrap in the middle, which allows her to catch in a super deep position at the front for her to just, you know, transfer all of that energy into the finish. I think this is super dope, you know, especially, you know, becoming a new mom. Like, obviously that takes a lot out of just anyone.
Yeah.
You know, so for her to be in a position where she can come back, you know, I know it was more so for the love of the game, you know, with this competition, but for you to, you know, show up and ball out as a mom too.
And all your friends are around.
Friends
and it's
are
probably
there,
and honestly, this is the most competitive meet she's had since college. So it's like, She showed up, dude.
She showed up. Like, you love to see it. You know, it's like one of those things where it's like, yo, I'm here. I'm about to just go have fun. And I feel like when you can just have fun, that's when you know, when there's no pressure, that's when you perform really well. You know,
I think you took the words out of my mouth. That's exactly what I want to say, because I think it's like, you know, we talk about the best of the best on this show consistently, but I think it's worth highlighting athletes like Danny, because there's some real lessons that a lot of throwers who watch this, who want to better themselves, can take away. And it's really just that she's doing this because she just loves it. And if you're doing it and pursuing the sport for that reason, like as the main reason, because you really do like it and you have fun doing it, like anything can happen. And that's what honestly loosens up your muscles and allows you to perform at your best. We saw it with Chris Marcel at Indoor Nationals. He didn't know what he was going to throw and had a 8-9 foot PR. So it's like, that's the takeaway here. Love the sport, have fun with it, and you'll surprise yourself.
Absolutely.
Congrats, Danny.
Congrats.
And now we have a clip from the actual live stream that we produced. Again, thanks Team X-Force for producing this live stream. Despite all the hiccups regarding weather, we did our best, and I think the stream turned out great. We also have the Throw Big, Throw Far podcast team of Dan McQuaid and Joe Frontier providing the commentary for this event. Again, phenomenal guys. If you ever have a chance to meet Dan McQuaid or Coach Frontier, one of the nicest guys, two of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and I thought they did a phenomenal job on commentary here. Let's take a look at Roger's best throw, which won him the competition, 21 meters, 77.
2044 for Regindra in round 5. Roger with this big open stance, just
I love the jump, dude. I love Roger, man. I love the reaction. Let's take another look at that throw here. Did I lose it? Come on. There we go. Okay. So let's take another look at Roger's throw here. 21 meters, 77. I think it was a great opener for him, following up World Indoors where he got bronze. You know, great throw. It was, and I know people were commenting about the placement of the camera and people walking in front of it. It was incredibly muddy there. So they had like plywood leading to the circle. So there was a very narrow strip and window that people could walk through. So that's the reason. But I think, like, you know, for this early in the season, given the conditions, given everything is covered in mud, and he still goes out and throws almost 22 meters as his outdoor opener.
Yeah.
I don't think you can ask for more. And also
complain.
just Roger's a great guy, and he was chatting up everyone the whole weekend.
Absolutely. Can't complain. Like, I feel like this is a great toss. I think from a technical standpoint, the left hand gets ahead of the left foot, which creates that like massive stretch, which I think is good. But you can also see it also creates a slight over rotation with that right foot. But he does such a great job with catching it back that he makes up for that. So it's like one of those things where it's like a give and take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I feel like even with that being, you know, that left hand getting far ahead and he's slightly long, like he catches back and just, you know, punches it into the finish. I've had, you know, a few conversations with a few of the athletes that I work with online, and, you know, we've been talking about, you know, preparing for a competition where it's like, hey, you know, I'm working on these technical, you know, parts of my throw, but when I get to a comp, it kind of breaks down a little bit and I'm not doing exactly what, you know, we've been working on. And it's like, sometimes that's okay.
Yeah.
Right. It's not going to be perfect right away, but, you know, if you keep working at it, it'll get better. But, you know, you just got to trust in where your technique is currently at so you can perform, right? You can focus on performing. And I feel like that's exactly what we're watching here, right? I don't know what Roger's working on. He might have executed exactly what he was working on. But, you know, like for my model, I do notice some things. But at the end of the day, it's like, you got to perform.
Yeah.
You got to show up, especially, you know, in a competition like this where you have some of the best shot putters.
We have Regindra Campbell in this comp, and Regindra has thrown 22 meters at the Olympics.
Yes.
He's the bronze medalist.
Yes, you have some of the top dogs there, and it's for money too. Dog, you just got to show up. And I feel like Roger does a really good job of doing just that.
I'm sure, you know, I know Roger watches the throw show, so I'm going to laugh if he hears this, but I think it's pretty safe to say, and I don't think he'd be offended by this, Roger's just a total meathead, and I love it. Just the way he attacks the throw, and it's like the fact that the jump, they're just like,
He's a dog.
like he's just a dog, man.
He's
He
a dog,
he
bro.
brings the energy. He is what this sport needs. because he's so entertaining. He brings the
Absolutely.
energy, brings the wood every time. And, I'm a Roger Steen fan. I've been a Roger Steen fan since he was in college in 2015. And again, I constantly preach this when we talk about Roger. Like, if you really like throwing, you want to keep throwing, like, don't set barriers for yourself based off of previous results. This is a guy who didn't even throw 19 meters in college. And he's a multiple-time 22-meter thrower. He's a 2-time world medalist. He's, he is, if I recall correctly, he's 3 years older than me, so I think he's like 34 now. And he's still having the best. He's on his way to have the best year of his career because his consistency over 2150 this year, including indoors, it's unparalleled. He's never been this consistent at these far marks. And I think we're going to see a massive PR from Roger later this season.
Absolutely.
Okay, so now we're finally going to start off with the discus, and we're going to start off with one of the biggest throws of the weekend as we look at the new Val Zion throwing her second best throw of all time, 73 meters 10, her second throw over 73 meters, a few centimeters short of her American record, which she set last year at 73.52. Not much to say here outside of Val is doing Val things.
Val...
It's a great throw.
It was a great throw. I think this was a good bounce back from the Thursday competition,
which we need to discuss.
That Thursday competition was rough.
It was very rough. That was the first loss she had in over 2 years.
Yeah.
Not only did she lose, she got 5th place.
Yeah.
Which was shocking. It was so weird that to see Val like not in the lead that competition and then to like process like what that actually meant. Like that competition in a way was almost historic. It reminded me of when Robert Hartung was like the last discus thrower I remember having a very, very long win streak of a couple years. And what finally took him to lose was he went to a meet where Peter Malachowski hit like a 2-meter personal best and threw like almost 72 meters. And it took like almost a 72-meter throw for Malachowski to finally beat Hartung. And that's kind of how it felt with the Thursday comp. But like you said, this is the Saturday comp. So Val suffered that loss through 65 meters, comes back, throws 8 meters farther.
Yeah.
That's what it means to be a champion.
Yeah.
What do you see on Val's throw here?
Yeah, no, this toss looked more like Val.
Yeah.
On Thursday, watching it, I don't know if she was fatigued, but she just didn't look like the normal Val. I don't know. It wasn't coming out of her hand right. Just like, it didn't seem like it was all there. And, obviously she's coming, from her wedding. Like, they got a lot of stuff going on. And I just felt like Thursday just wasn't a good representation of who she is and who she has been.
Yeah.
But I feel like, kind of getting that loss and just kind of like, whatever, like it is what it is. Let's get prepared for Saturday because that's what we're here for. I feel like just, having that couple days to just reflect on it, just allowed her to be in a space where it's like, no, I'm Val, now Zion.
Yeah.
I'm going to show everyone that I'm the best. I'm going to be the person who's, going to be closest to breaking this world record. I'm going to get a toss over 73, and I feel like she did just that.
I think it's when you get to that level and understanding what you're capable of, making throws happen, and I think Val made this throw happen.
Yeah.
One thing I'll say is on Thursday, I thought she had like a pretty far warm-up, but like you said, it was just her movement looked very inconsistent, and it's just crazy to see that she could make such a radical change in the way she was throwing in only 2 to 3 days. It has me curious, like what she did to regroup on that. I didn't get a chance to interview her at all, but I would be curious, like, I think Polly from Polly Throws interviewed her. So if you haven't already, I'd say check out that interview to see what changes she may have made to get to this result compared to what she was on Thursday. But yeah, that's what makes a champion, the ability to bounce back.
Absolutely.
And we got to talk about the winner of the Thursday comp, but also second placer in the Saturday comp to Val. This was Jorinde van Klinken throwing her second meet over 70 meters, finishing out with a new national record of 70 meters 99. I had the privilege to film her first 70-meter throw back at Tucson Elite 5 years ago, which was a massive shock because and I talked to Yorinde a little bit about this weekend. What was crazy about that 70-meter throw, not just that she threw 70 meters. She walked into that Tucson Elite weekend, which is a 2-day meet similar to this. Her PR was 62 meters then.
Mm-hmm.
And she walked away that weekend. I think her first meet she went 65, and then her second meet she went 70.
Mm-hmm.
So she had 8 meters to her personal best in only 4 days back then. But that's always been kind of like a monkey on her back for the last 5 years because she knows that maybe that throw came at a time where she wasn't expecting, and maybe she's still trying to figure out how to find that level of distance again.
Mm-hmm.
But she came to Ramona. It's her first time at Ramona. She knew that this was her best opportunity given the conditions, and she walked away with a new personal best. She got it done. She got that monkey off her back. And, she said she was upset because it marked at 70.99. She's like, I think you're 1 centimeter off. Like, she just wanted to throw 71 so bad.
Yeah.
And I think she definitely is capable because Yorinde's still young. She only recently graduated college like 2 years ago.
Absolutely.
So what do you see on Yorinde's throw here? And I'll be honest, Yorinde was just looking great all weekend. She threw almost 69 on Thursday, and to come out here and throw almost 71 here, what do you see on Yorinde's throw?
Yeah, I think, looking at both Thursday and Saturday, I felt like she was in really good form, with all 12 attempts. Obviously, I think the irony of this toss is like she hits it and she's just like, oh, like I missed it. But it was 70.99. Like it was still a far toss. So I found that funny when I watched it. Going back to Yorinde's interview with Throw Big, Throw Far with Coach Frontier, she talked about that first 70-meter toss and, kind of just how she felt, about it and whatnot. And I feel like she's definitely kind of gotten that monkey off her back the last couple of years, especially as she started performing, at the highest level.
Yeah.
Like she has proven that she is one of the top women discus thrower, these last couple of years. And I feel like that energy and that confidence going into this, put her in a position where on Thursday she beat Val.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like not too many people can say that. And then, double down and, finished second with this new PR here. Now, looking at the technique, like obviously it's down that right sector. I don't know what about this toss, felt off, but, clearly she's in really good shape. And I feel like if she had the toss that she was shooting for, she would have easily thrown over 71.
Yeah, I think she was in shape to probably go over 72. She said she was still missing it slightly, and I believe her because she's in really, really good shape, and I could see how this throw still went as far as it did, despite like maybe not having the perfect release that she was hoping for.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we'll see is we'll see Yorinde come back next year in much better understanding of how to throw in these conditions, and I think we'll see a new national record.
I think that is a fair part. This is her first time competing at Ramona.
Yeah.
And I know from my experience, it took me at least, 2 comps. It took me at least one time to go there to really figure it out. And then, after then, that second year I PR'd. I'm going there this weekend, fingers crossed, hopefully,
Good luck, coach.
Thank you. But, for it being her first time there, I think this was a phenomenal competition.
Yeah, absolutely. But she was not the only athlete from the Netherlands, not the only Dutch athlete to have a great weekend, as we see Alida van Daalen going 69 meters 17 for a new personal best. She set a new personal best on Thursday at 67.99, follows it up with a 69 meter throw on Saturday. And Alida has been showing that she is in form to do something really big on the professional level. She's competed in a few diamond leagues, had some great performances there. But the fact that we have I love this reaction too.
Yeah.
It's so great. But to see Alida do this and have 2 Dutch women that are basically both right at 70 meters, like it's almost similar to when we saw the Cuban women's team like as dominant, like when we had Jaime as part of Cuba and there was Dania Caballero. Of course, now they have the 3rd Cuban who got bronze at Worlds. But yeah, I think Alida is definitely setting herself up to have a great career as a professional. I think she's still training in Florida.
Yeah.
But 69 meters here. What do you think of Alida's throw?
Yeah, no, I think Alida also had a phenomenal weekend. She got second on that Thursday competition, behind Yorinde, and then obviously, went big, I think she hit a PR on that first one, or it was very close to it.
The first day or first
on
throw?
Thursday.
Yeah, she went 67.99.
Yeah, I was about to say, okay. So
because
she
her
hit
PR
a,
is 66 prior.
She hit a PR on Thursday, which is phenomenal. You know, you already check, PR check. And then, got second place, also beat Val. Like, not too many people can say that. But doubled down on Saturday and went even bigger, going 69 meters. I personally like Alida's technique. I'm a big fan of her. She also did a podcast with Throw Big Throw Far with Coach Frontier, and I thoroughly enjoyed her conversation with Coach Frontier. So if you have some free time, go check out that interview. I thought it was really good. But for her to walk away with 2 PRs and for her to go big, I feel like is a big confidence booster for the rest of the year. And I feel like just kind of flowing off this energy, she's going to be definitely one of the top people to watch,
Yeah, absolutely. And honestly, I just also want to highlight just Alida's a great person, great personality. After she threw 67 on Thursday, she was basically like, oh, I'm just here to have fun at this point.
Yeah.
And I think, like we said about, my old teammate Danny, like when you're just kind of loose and having fun, great things can happen. And she added another meter to her personal best, inching closer 70 meters. And it's going to be crazy because we're probably going to see 2 Dutch women with PRs over 70 meters in the next few years. And they're both very young. Like they're both in their mid-20s. And as we've seen with women discus throwers, especially the one we're going to highlight next, you can throw the sport for a long, long time because we are looking at one of my personal favorite throwers ever, Melina Robert-Michon, who we talked about in last throw show, I believe, breaking the world record in her age group. Maybe we didn't talk about last week, but she broke the world record for her age group, which is the 45 to 49-year-old age group, which is like the first masters age group in track and field, where she threw like 64.50. Well, she came back on Thursday and had a day, 65.95 for basically one of the farthest throws she's ever had. And I believe you said her overall PR is like 66.73. She is within a meter of her overall personal best, which she set back in 2013, 13 years ago, where she got the silver medal at the World Championship. I don't really know what to say outside of, or maybe that was the 2016 Olympics. I can't remember, but I do remember that she broke the national record at a major. So the fact that she went 65.95, Melina's 46 years old. In comparison, the previous 3 athletes we talked about are in their late 20s. And I think Val actually might be in her early 30s by this point.
Yeah, I think she's around my age. Or
our age. But Urende and Alida, both in their mid-20s. So what do you see on Melina's throw here? Dude, I thought her technique looks amazing. And I'm like, you look better than you did a few years ago.
Yeah.
She's turned back the clock in a way that I've never seen an athlete do. And to hit that 65.95 is really, really far, regardless if you're a master's athlete or not.
Yeah, if you open up the book, the dictionary, and you look up longevity, it's just going to be
Melina.
A picture of Melina. Looking at her technique here, I just feel like she just slings the discus.
Dude,
like
she's so fast.
She gets to a good position and just cranks on the finish. And, that's what you need to do, being here at Ramona, right? Really utilizing the wind to your full advantage, and I feel like she does just that. Yeah. Right, she gets to a good power position. Like I said, she's very long, and the discus just zips out of her hand. And when you have favorable winds and you hit it right, like it's gonna fly far, and that's exactly what we saw here.
I think what gets me about this is like, forget the wind. The speed at which she's moving in the circle is not the speed of a 46-year-old woman.
No. No, not at all.
Like I know people are going to say, oh, about the wind. No, that is a 46-year-old woman you're watching in front of you, and that is a good throw. Yes. I don't care who you are.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't really have much else to say. That's a great freaking mark, and well done, Melina. Pat yourself on the back. I am convinced that if she comes back next year, now that she really knows how to attack it, if she's feeling as good as she's feeling now, I think she can break her personal best and break the French national record. Easily. Which would be insane.
Easily.
Okay, and then this one is a personal highlight of mine. I'm so glad they brought this back for another year, and I hope Caleb and his team do it every single year moving forward. But we did a first throw to bring about the men's competition on Saturday. And who we had as a special guest to do the ceremonial first toss was none other than Wolfgang Schmidt. And for those that don't know who Wolfgang Schmidt is, he's a former world record holder for East Germany. He was the first man to ever cross 71 meters back in the late 70s. But not only that, he's also known for speaking his mind and being willing to speak out against the government and things, go and the way they treated their people. And he was actually basically exiled and put under house arrest for 4 years in his late 20s, and lost some of the best years of his career. He wasn't allowed to train. He wasn't allowed to do anything. And he has a great book called Thrown Free, which I highly recommend if you're interested picking up and reading, which details his story. And then he was actually able to cross the Iron Curtain. He became a friend with Mac Wilkins at the 76 Olympics, where he got bronze, or maybe it was silver, but he was a medalist to Mac Wilkins. There's them hugging. And after he was able to escape East Germany, he went to live in California with Mac Wilkins, and where he then went on to compete for West Germany for a few years until the Berlin Wall fell and the Soviet Union essentially collapsed. Great story beyond just his throwing career. But the other thing that's also he's known for, he has probably one of the best discus techniques ever. Mm-hmm. If you want to learn how to throw the discus well, I highly recommend watching old Wolfgang Schmidt. He was a technical model that still works today. Mm-hmm. He's probably one of my favorite discus throwers to watch to learn how to throw the discus. And the fact that, he's, I think, 76 here, and still, he did just a little, fake little spin to come around and throw. He doesn't throw anymore, but it was awesome that he's willing to come out to the event and take the ceremonial first throw. You have any thoughts on Wolfgang here?
Nah, I agree with you. I'm glad that they're keeping this, annual first toss alive, because I feel like it's a really cool, start to the competition. Obviously, last year was Mac, now we have Wolfgang, and I feel like if we can keep this tradition going, we're gonna start connecting more of our younger generation to our older generation, and really just kind of bridging this gap of just far throws, right? Because that's what Ramona is, right? It's community and it's watching far throws, and that's exactly what something like this does, right? I feel like obviously there's a lot of discourse around Ramona and all of the chase and win, but like at the end of the day, like it's still a community event where all of these throwers are coming together to just have a blast, right? Have fun and watch far throws. And something like this, I feel like sometimes doesn't get as much attention as, wind chasing. All right, whatever, cool. This is a super cool moment that, a lot of people got to experience. Like, I'm sure, like, it was probably sick getting to see him in person. And
just shaking his hand. I didn't get a chance to talk to him much at all. Dane had a chance to talk to him. But it's like very traditional German man who very didn't talk too much. Very kept his sentences very short. But I think I'll talk to Caleb again, and I really want to push him to see if we can get more throwers like legends that are still alive, that are able to move around and take a throw for these competitions, because I think you said it best. It's like one thing I think that needs to be highlighted about Ramona. Do you know why guys like Roger Steen and Chase came to throw at Ramona, despite the fact it's primarily a discus meet? It's because of the atmosphere. And it's not the atmosphere of wind. It's the atmosphere of community. Things I love. I've come to just appreciate this meet year over year, every year more than the last, because just coming to a competition, and it's like, especially with professional athletes, every meet, especially like at a Diamond League or especially a World Championship level comp, like they're all on their own. The focus is trying to win. Mm-hmm. The focus here at Ramona is just throw far. And that it's not just about you throwing far. You want your competitors to throw far, because if they're throwing far, that loosens you up to want to throw far.
Absolutely.
And it's just like there's such positive energy. And that's why Roger wanted to come throw. And that's why he had a good meet. It's because you're not going to find, like, this is the best of the throwing community, this event. And I hope it continues to grow and we get more and more spectators. Unfortunately, I don't think we had as many because of the weather. Mm-hmm. But the more this event grows, the more people are going to show appreciation for what this event is. It literally brings people together, and the fact that we have the chance to honor these legends like Wolfgang is a testament to that.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, thank you, Wolfgang, for participating, and we can't wait to see what legend we bring back. Caleb brings out next year.
Absolutely.
Okay, now we're getting into the main event. We have the men's discus competition, and we're covering the best throws between Thursday and Saturday because some of the best throws for these guys did happen on the Thursday competition. One of them being Matthew Denny throwing 74.04. He had the farthest throw of the entire weekend, but not by much because we're going to talk about a thrower who surprised everybody following Matthew here. And yeah, Matt going 74.04. I know he wanted a bit more. He thought he was probably capable of getting close to Alekna's world record over 75 meters, but still, I don't think you can't complain with a 74-meter throw. Like that's still one of the farthest throws in the history of the sport. But what do you think of Matt's throw here? Matt looks great always. I really like his technique. He gets such great pull on the discus. What do you see on this throw?
Yeah, watching the live stream back, I felt like Denny was in a really good spot, really kind of attacking tosses. I know he didn't quite finish the way that he expected, especially watching his YouTube channel where, he was talking about, I think it's the Ramona Diaries.
Yeah, which you need to check out, by the way. Those
really
videos are incredible. They're very cinematic. I legitimately watch those videos and I'm actually jealous I haven't made videos like this because they're so good.
Yeah, really good quality stuff where he breaks down, his thoughts and just his preparation, how he felt about Ramona. Highly recommended. But I felt like overall, this was still a good competition.
Absolutely.
I believe he went 74 in both, or
no. So he went 74.04 in the first one, and he went 73 in the second.
Okay, so 73, but still.
Yeah.
Those are very far tosses. Yeah. And, obviously Alekna's not here, but Denny was, that next guy up, looking back from last year's competition. He came back, he doubled down on another 74. He ran it back on Saturday. The conditions on Saturday wasn't, as great as, we anticipated, but he still came back, he doubled down, and, he finished phenomenally.
Yeah, and I had the privilege to kind of sit down with him after the Saturday meet, and we were drinking a bit, and yeah, he's a funny guy. I'll just say that he's very Australian.
Yeah, yeah.
He's unapologetically Australian. So, great guy, great throws here. I think Matthew's going to throw farther. I think he can be a 75-meter thrower on the right day. It'll see if he lines up. I don't know if he'll be in Ramona this week with you, but I know he's still trying to chase that mark. So Great job, Denny. And this was the shock of the weekend. I don't think anyone expected anything close to this result from this man. I think maybe some people thought he could throw 71, which is probably where I thought he was going to end up given last year. But we have Steven Richter out of Germany. He threw 69 meters here last year, which is a really, really big personal best. Opens up this comp with a new personal best at 69.90. Second throw, 70 meters, and he's losing his mind they threw over 70 meters. Well, now that he got the job done of being a 70-meter thrower, his next throw, he's just I'm just going to loosen up and, see what happens.
Yeah.
And he launched a bomb. And
absolutely.
That was 74 meters even. And I know we just talked about Denny's 74.04. He was leading this comp, and Denny had to fight back for that throw. But he went 74 meters even. I think the craziest part about this is not even his national record, because the world record before Alekna broke it in 2014 was 74.08 by Jürgen Schult from Germany. So despite being a 74-meter thrower, he still doesn't have his national record, which is insane to me.
Yeah.
But Steven Richter here. I talked to Alex Rose and Sam Mattis quite a bit about this over the weekend. And basically they're saying he was just hitting every throw perfectly to catch the wind. And he just knows how to do it. He also had a really, really big throw at the European Winter Throwing Cup and won that competition. And he threw 67 meters there. And one thing to note was Eric Favors, our teammate, also threw a shot put at that meet. He said it was 35 to 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So it was really cold. So the fact that he went 67 in those conditions, it had you thinking he was probably ready for a big throw, and he executed and walked away with a 74-meter throw. What do you think of this comp, and what do you of this performance from him, and just the 4-meter plus improvement on his PR?
In my personal opinion, I feel like Steven was the MVP of this year's Ramona.
I would agree.
Dude,
I would agree.
He went 74. I think it was round 3. It was either round 2 or round 3.
It was round 3.
Round 3. But then doubled down with 2 more 73-meter tosses.
Yeah.
I think attempt 4 and attempt 6.
Yep.
Like, he was the MVP, you know, especially of this competition. And then I forget what he did on Saturday, but I want to say it was relatively good. Or did he compete?
60,
No.
You know,
Did
he
he
threw. I
compete?
think he threw like 69.
69?
Yeah.
Okay. I know his compatriot.
Oh, Kangas.
Yeah, I know he
So-
also did well.
So that was on Sunday.
Sunday, okay. And I saw Dan
Cargas.
McQuaid call him the coach of the year. I don't know if they were coaching or training partners,
Yeah.
but I just thought that was cool. Like, you know, those guys showed up. But
He told me he actually works with David Stroll's old coach, Sven Lang, I believe.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha. But just like in terms of this performance, dude, like it was the best thing. Actually watching the live stream, you can see from like, you know, the inside the circle, and you can see him just stay nice and long and just hit it. And like you could kind of tell like, yo, that was something. Like obviously watching it live, you didn't know how far it was, but just it zipped out of his hand. And, you know, once we got the result that it was 74, it was just like,
Yeah.
Insane.
Incredible. I don't really know what else to say outside of just well done, Steven. Oh my God. And then we actually have Che, who had a pretty like under the radar national record. He did PR again, but it was very small relative to what we thought Che. Like I thought Che was going to be throwing 74 plus this weekend, but walks away with a new personal best, new national record. Can't really complain about that. 72.61. Yeah, Che is a monster. I realized that in person. I always knew Che was big. I didn't realize how big Che actually was. I would say he is the largest person I've ever met. But I met Hapthor when he was at his absolute biggest at the Arnold one year when he was like 205 kilos. So he still takes the cake as the largest human being I've ever been around. Christian Che's a second. He's quite large. There's a reason why he throws as far as he does. He's a great athlete, and the fact that he can move the way he does at his size is a physical anomaly to me. But yeah, we see Che here, 72.61. What do you see on this throw here? And I was kind of hoping he'd throw a little further, but, you know, a few meets over 72, nothing to complain about.
Yeah, no, I think overall Che had... I know he was here before this World Invite, and I feel like his time in Ramona was pretty good. I know, or this was a rumor, but it was said that he likes throwing in a tailwind. Like, that's his preferred wind.
Yeah.
So, you know, to be throwing in a complete opposite wind, like... I wonder, you know, if he truly felt comfortable. Like, I know he's been there for a little bit, but, like, you don't just switch, you know, what your favorite is, you know, in 2 weeks or so. But I think overall, like, you know, he showed up. You know, he had a few competitions over 70 meters, which is, you know, definitely huge. Looking at this toss, I think he lands a little past the middle with his right on this one. And I feel like there's just a slight lean to his right as he's getting to his power position.
I have seen him look better technically. I will say that.
Yeah, I feel like just with this toss in particular, that's just what I see.
No.
But still to throw 72, even with, you know, a minor, you know, error in your technique, error, literally air quotations, is still phenomenal. And it just, you know, makes me wonder, like, if that right wasn't a better spot and he was a little more balanced, you know, could that have been a 73 meter toss or like a 74? But I think overall, like, you know, he did a pretty good job and he showed up.
And now we're going to move on to Sam and I's favorite highlight of the weekend, because our boy Sam Mattis did the thing. He did the thing that, you know, Sam and I have been talking about for almost 10 years now. Mattis, I mean.
Yeah.
And that was break the American record. Not only did he break the American record, as we've stated before in the throw show, the American record has a weird, controversial history in the men's discus, in that World Athletics recognized that there was a national record at 71 meters 38 by Ben Plunkett, but USATF recognized a throw that was over 72 meters. I think it was like 72.30. So filming this throw, I actually got, this is the footage that I filmed, so I knew I had to get the whole celebration because I knew that was special. But when I saw the screen pop up 72.45 and I knew he passed what USATF counted as the national record, I was like, he did it.
Yeah.
There's no question marks.
Yeah.
Like, he is the American record holder. It was something that Sam has dreamed about, you know, for over a decade now, and he did it. He was the one guy to do it. And one thing to note here, this was the oldest American record for USATF by quite a large margin, because I think the second oldest is Michael Johnson's 400-meter record from 1999. That 72-meter throw from Ben Plunkton was, I think, either 81 or 83. So at least 40 years that record has stood. And honestly, by an athlete that, like, most people there isn't too much footage on. Like, Ben Plunkton had a relatively short career compared to guys like John Powell or Mac Wilkins or Tony Washington. So to see Sam take down that record and give it to a clean athlete, because part of the reason why there's a question mark on that 72 that Ben Plunkton had, he tested positive for drugs like a week later. So the fact that Sam has this, he's a clean athlete, he's the American record holder. What do you see on this throw? And, you know, you've trained with him for the last few years. What does it mean to you to see your buddy break the American record?
Yeah, I see a dog. I see two dogs. I see.
Yeah, you gotta love the reaction with Dane,
with
and
Dane, like
Marcus, and then of course Alex, our teammate.
Yeah, dude, like it was a big moment. You know, obviously I have the privilege to train with Sam, and you know I get to see what his training is like on a daily basis, and he was in phenomenal shape going into this competition. Like, I got to see him throw over 65 meters on several occasions at the local high school that we train at, which is a very tough place to train in because we don't have favorable conditions over there. But he was in really good shape going into this competition. And it was just like one of those things, like, we all knew he could do it. It was just doing it. And obviously, you know, this year's Ramona, like, he went in with a clear vision. Him and Dane had a clear vision. They knew exactly what he needed to do with his technique to get a result, you know, that was favorable to break this record, and they did just that. You know, I'm super excited for Sam. You know, as soon as I saw him on Sunday, he was training, which I thought was kind of crazy. But, I had to hype him up like, hey, dog, yo, like, let me get your autograph, bro. You are the record holder. I just felt like it was a phenomenal achievement. Obviously, he got the job done, and, you know, I'm more than happy for it. Like, I couldn't be, you know, any more happy for him.
Yeah, I don't really know what else to say. It was a very positive moment. I will say this. I think my heart kind of sank when I saw the 45 pop up, knowing that he officially broke it, because I've known this guy for 10 years. I watched Sam back when I was in high school in like 2012, 2013. So I was a fan of Sam before I even can call him a friend. And we've actually had him do videos in here. You know, we did a react to his career progression like a year ago. And, you know, that was, I think before Ramona. So that was leading up to him having a PR 68 at the time. And the fact that, you know, now he's walking away 72.45, you know, forever how long this record happens to stand in the United States doesn't matter. He can always call himself that he was the American record holder for the rest of his life, which is an amazing feat in itself. And I think now that he's sort of got that monkey off his back, that one major goal, now the next goal is perform at a major and see if we can get a medal, because I think Sam is physically capable of doing it. Watch this throw. Keep watching more throws we have from Sam, because he's a great technician. I know he moves kind of his own way, so I wouldn't copy everything to a T that Sam does. He has his own unique way of moving, but he is a great model to watch to know how to throw far. And Sam, if you're watching, congrats, buddy. You earned it. And this throw, again, was sort of a shocking one, which I don't think many people expected. But we have Lawrence Okoye here. He hit a big personal best here last year, throwing over 70 meters for the first time to break the British national record. Well, he did it again, and he added a meter to the national record. So originally his PR 70.76 from last year. Well, now he won 71.88, new national record. One of the very few, if only, non-reverse discus throwers left, and he's still showing that technique is valid and works.
Absolutely.
Honestly, if I had to guess, he's probably the farthest non-reverse discus thrower in history now.
I was just thinking that.
Because Robert Hartung never threw over 71. Jürgen Schultz, when he threw 74, reversed. So despite being a non-reverse thrower for most of his career, his farthest throws did come from a reverse. So I don't know if he has like a small meat non-reverse that's over 72. But I do know, at least when Jürgen Schultz broke the world record, he was reversing.
Yeah.
So what do you see on this throw here, and what do you think about the non-reverse technique? You mostly only see women do it now. You know?
Yeah. I still think it's valid, especially with Lawrence here. The biggest thing with him is he's a big guy. I got to see him in person last year.
Dude, it's unfair. Like you
he's
you shouldn't be allowed to look like that and also like have the very proper British accent. It's like it's like he's literally just a step above every other man on the planet. Like it's just unfair that you can look the way he does and sound the way he does. And
he's massive, but like he's so agile and like he's very long, and you can really see that with his technique here. I think a really good part, like as I'm trying to think about last year compared to this year, I just feel like he gets more of that right side into the finish, which makes it a reality. Like he added a meter to what was his personal best last year. So I feel like just between his natural size and just his technique and his length, like 71, it's like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Absolutely. And I will say I did miss the throw from Rogestona. He set a new personal best over 70 meters 60. I don't have that throw available to you, but go back and watch the live stream. I believe he did in the Thursday comp. Roger has one of the best discus techniques of all time, and there's a lot you can learn there from him. So I highly recommend checking out Roger's throw of his 70-meter toss. But I really want to talk about this one because this was, you could argue that Steen Richter had the performance of the weekend. You could also argue that Texas Tanner had the performance of the weekend because he added 6 meters to his personal best, and he went 69 meters 56 here on the Thursday comp. And I didn't really know what else to say. Like Dane has used the term Twitch Factory before.
That's him.
He is the epitome of a Twitch Factory. So we had the opportunity to really talk to his coach, Kyle Lilly, and himself quite a bit over the weekend. His coach, Kyle Lilly at Air Force, is a phenomenal guy. He's actually one of the best Highland Games athletes in the world. And I go up to Kyle, and I'm just like, so does he have like a single slow twitch muscle like in his body? He's like, no. He's like, not one. Not one. He's like, literally just a rubber band ball of just lightning and, like the rubber band ball is very, 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 very tight.
Yeah.
He is just pure fast twitch energy. And I think with this throw, if you look at the decathlon score, I talked about this with Ryan Hirschberger over the weekend. If you look purely at the decathlon score of the marks that he has hit across all 3 ring events, discus, hammer, and shot put, he is technically the greatest thrower ever. And I'm not kidding about that.
Yeah.
Like, because of how far he's thrown. Now you're talking individual pure performances. He's thrown 75 meters in the hammer. He's thrown 20 meters in the shot put. And now he's thrown almost 70 meters in the discus.
Yeah, no.
I don't really know what else to say. Texas is a great kid. I actually have an interview that I filmed with him. It should be on the Throws University channel by the time you see this throw show. So I highly recommend you check out that interview. He talks about like some of his training, and he talks about like, what he attributes to his success and what really keeps him going, motivated for the sport. I think what's a note here is he is looking to join the WCAT program for the Air Force and continue throwing post-collegiately. I think that's a smart move. I think now that he's thrown 69 in the discus, it's going to be interesting to see whether or not he pursues the hammer throw post-collegiately. But, dude, I don't really know what to say about Texas. Like, he has a technique that I think what gets me is, one, Texas is not that tall. Texas is like 6'2". For a discus thrower, that's relatively short.
Yeah.
And he's 22 years old, and I'd like to say there are things he can work on in his technique, but the fact that he threw 69 meters throwing this way, you as the professional discus thrower on the show, what is your take?
Dude, Twitch factor. Like, he is twitchy. Like, people tell me that I throw fast. I feel like I throw slow compared to Texas Tanner. Like, this is super fast, and I feel like because he moves, fairly well with this speed, all of that energy just gets put into the finish. And, clearly, like, at this time, he was the number 1 in the U.S., which is like crazy to think. Like, my jaw dropped.
So Reggie set the U.S. number 1 2
Reggie
hours
was
earlier.
Number 1, and then Texas Tanner did it, and then Sam took it. But, like, at the time, like, I just got to the gym, and they were like, yeah, Texas went 69, and my jaw dropped. I texted Dane immediately. I was like, yo, did Texas really go 69? He was like, LOL, yeah. And I had to pull up the live stream. I had to rewatch it. I looked on Instagram. I saw it, and I was like, I love this. Like, I got to meet Texas last year, and I really went like that, and it felt like I hit a cement wall, bro. Like, He is the epitome of just being brawlic, but he's a phenomenal athlete. And
Yeah.
I don't want, that to be highlighted because he actually won the hammer at 74 with some pro athletes.
Yeah.
He's a really good athlete. He is phenomenal. And I'm very excited for Texas as a discus thrower, as a hammer thrower, as a shot thrower, but just as an athlete as a whole. I'm rooting for this dude. I hope he continues to just prove people wrong and just continue to throw far.
And I know I say this every time we talk about Texas, but he's also a service academy athlete. He has to do training on top of his current training. Like, this isn't normal. Like, the results aren't normal, but the fact that he has like extra barriers that should logically keep him from doing stuff like this doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to see what he does when he reaches that next level as an elite competition thrower, because we've seen these massive marks. And we've seen him even throw well discus like at national championships. Like I think he PR'd his discus last year at nationals.
Mm-hmm.
So we know he is a competitor when it counts. It'll be interesting to see how he carries this forward in the rest of his career. Congrats, Texas. Like, I don't really know what else to say, but you're just built different, dog.
This man needs a statue.
Okay, and then this one I want to talk about briefly is we're looking at Marius Kargas out of Germany, another big German thrower, went 69.47 here on the Sunday competition. So make sure you check out that Sunday competition, because a lot of people kind of underwrit that because Denny and Sam wasn't throwing and the top guys. But there were some really, really far throws on that Sunday meet. This is one of them. 69.47. You talked about earlier Dane McQuaid saying that Steven Richter was the coach of the day. So the fact that he helped Kargas hit a monster throw like this, and Kargas has had a really good career. I believe he's a U20 world champion. So like 69.47 here, dude. Ramona's the place to hit 4 throws. You're going to be there this weekend. I wish you the best of luck, Coach
Thank
Sam
you.
Weeks. And because we're tough on time, I don't want to spend too much time on here, but really briefly, what do you see on his throw here?
I think it's phenomenal. I think he's very long. I think he attacks it. I feel like he's another guy who really utilizes the speed in the ring. And, you can see that. I think he went 67 in the same series. But, throughout his whole series, he was just attacking. Obviously, the Germans came in here, ready to go, and they did just that. They threw far, and they showed up.
Yeah. Well done. That was incredible. And another highlight here. So this was the American leader, which only lasted for about 2 hours, as Reggie Jagers went 69 meters. This is the second best throw of his career. Again at Ramona. I was there to watch this competition live. You can actually watch the whole Lefty comp on the Thursday University channel. Wasn't a live stream. We didn't have the live stream set up by that point. So I did record it on the camera and posted that whole comp for you guys to enjoy. So check out that after this video if you're interested. But yeah, 69.09 from Reggie here for the lefty comp. What do you see on Reggie's throw?
I like Reggie's movement. I felt like it was very good going into this competition. I think with this toss, obviously it went down that left sector line, where usually I feel like he really kind of pushes down the right. But I feel like if he set on the finish for like a second longer, it would have went right down the middle, and it was probably going to be a 70-meter toss. But I think for what it is, like, he showed up. At that point, he was U.S. number 1. So, like, obviously he's in phenomenal shape. He did win the Winter Classic. So, like, clearly he's in a really good shape. I feel like between what him and Martin are doing over at UCS, like, it's clearly working. And I feel like, if he just keeps, getting in quality reps, keeps doing his thing, he's going to be, the next guy to break 70 meters.
Yeah, I agree with you. Sorry, guys. Video seems to have some issues, so I'll see if I can plug in another video there for you guys to enjoy. But yeah, if you did watch the throw, you can watch the comp on YouTube. Like I said, he throws down left sector, comes back in the ring. I actually thought he looked pretty clean here. Like I said, with the long throws meet, I thought he looked pretty good there. So yeah, Reggie's continued to perform well. It'll be interesting to see if he can finally break 70 meters and if he comes back to Ramona to try to get that.
I think he will.
Yeah, I think he definitely has the ability. And I wanted to highlight this because this is a thrower who's been on the scene for quite a long time, and I wanted to give him his flowers because he's one of the best guys you can possibly meet in the throws community. This is Jamaican thrower Chad Wright. Chad had a PR of, I think it was like 66.50 something.
We have 66.54.
Prior to this competition from like, what was that, 7 years ago?
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, quite a while ago. And he walks into the comp on Sunday showing a new personal best, 67.92. If you ever have the privilege to meet Chad in person, please talk to him. He's one of the nicest guys.
Hilarious.
I
He's
love
so
Chad.
funny.
I love Chad. But like he was one of the throwers I talked to quite a bit over the weekend. And I just want to at least show some appreciation, show some love to Chad, just for being a great person, great thrower. And dude, he has checked some major boxes in his career. He's made multiple world finals. I believe he's made an Olympic final for Jamaica. And he's the embodiment of whatever I think every thrower should be. Just a good dude who wants to help people throw far and push this and pursue the sport as far as you can possibly take it. And one thing to note here is he's actually has a competition later this month coming up for the Pan Am Championships in weightlifting. He is also the heavyweight for the Jamaican national team and will be competing at the Pan Am Championships. And I even talked to him. I was like, so you qualify for Commonwealth Games with this throw. This is when he threw 64 a few days earlier. And he's like, yep. And I was like, so are you going to do Commonwealth for weightlifting and discus? And he's like, yep. And I was just like, so how does that work? I was like, well, the Commonwealth Games are shorter than they normally are. So I'm going to be weightlifting, and then I got to take my clothes off, and then I'm going to compete in discus the next day or 2 days later. I'm like, dude, you're nuts. Because I'm like, that would tax your nervous system so hard.
Yeah.
But the man loves to compete, whether it's weightlifting or discus, and I think that's got to be respected.
Absolutely.
Great job, Chad. Love to see
Phenomenal
it.
job.
Okay, and this is going to be our last throw of the evening, but I didn't want to, sell our boy short. This is Noah Kennedy White. Noah set a new outdoor personal best in the discus this weekend, throwing 60 meters 41 on his last throw. And I say outdoor PR because he is one of the very few, if only discus throwers in the entire world, that has an indoor personal best that is farther than his outdoor personal best. Back from like 2018, I think. So love Noah. He's been a long-standing athlete for Garage Strength. Took a few years off, came back into it last year. Setting new personal best. I actually think he looks really, really good here, technique-wise. And I think Noah actually has a lot more left in the tank. He said having that break definitely cleared his head about what he needs to focus on. And I think we're going to see a much better Noah Kennedy White in the future. What do you see on Noah's throw here?
Yeah, no, I was very happy for Noah. He did come out and train with us for a couple days, and I remember just watching him, and I was like, wow, like he looks phenomenal. Like he's in really good shape. He's tall, he's long, and he really gets into the finish, and you can really see that here on this throw. Obviously he broke that 60-meter barrier. I forget, it was 60-41. Which, was a new PR, and, I'm very happy for him. I feel like once he continues throwing, gets more competitions under his belt, he's really going to start pushing further marks. But for what this is right now, after taking a break, a little time off from throwing, I think this is phenomenal, and I'm really glad to see him come back, and I'm very excited to see what he does moving forward.
Yeah, and I'll even say this regarding Noah. It's like I said, his headspace is really clear. I think he's ready to go super far. I thought he looked really, really good. And I think something I also want to add is, so we didn't feature Alex Rose in this compilation, which I'm kind of sad I wasn't able to get him into this, but we're running short on time. He did throw 70 meters on Thursday. Unfortunately, because the way they set up the comp, it was like everyone gets 6 throws. But in order for like a national record to actually count, it needs to have prelims and finals. Well, because Alex actually had his first 3 throws as fouls, in order to count Sam's national record on that Thursday comp, they had to actually remove Alex's 70-meter mark from Thursday comp because that happened after he had 3 fouls already. So unfortunate news for Alex. But one thing I kind of want to tell you guys, before we leave you guys here today, is if you look at all the athletes that competed here, we see Noah here setting new personal best. Alex had a great meet, throwing 70 meters despite it not counting. We also had Gabby Jacobs throw. She threw over 62 meters following coming back from a knee injury. Another athlete, Mauricio Ortega, threw 66 meters on the first day. We also had Jefta Vogel out of Switzerland, who competes for Garage Strength, competing in the shot put. It was a great weekend for Garage Strength throws. And, as we were talking about Alivia earlier in this episode, we coach athletes from all stages of their careers, from day one athletes picking up a shot in discus for the first day to the best of the professional level. And, you know, you can get access to that training. This isn't exclusive anymore. Like, you know, there's no more locked doors and gatekeeping of high level training. You can get access to to training that the very best athletes in the world use by going to throwsuniversity.com, and you get to work with one of the top throws coaches in the United States, I would argue the world, in Coach Sam Weeks. Coach, can you tell them what they can expect from training with you?
Yeah, they're gonna get a program that's custom towards you, custom towards custom towards them. That's based off of time of year, right? We will get a list. We'll give you a questionnaire, right, that you'll fill your information out, you know, addressing where you're currently at, what technique you do, what is your goal, and we'll take that information and we'll tailor what we currently have so that our program is tailored towards your vision, right, towards your goals, so that we can take the steps that are necessary to allow you to get closer to those goals and absolutely smash them. So if you are someone who is currently stuck or has a plateau, or someone who wants to get better, make sure you head over to throwsuniversity.com and pick up a program today.
Absolutely. We do all this so you guys can get better and you can drop some bombs. Peace.